Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled Steal from the Garden. Here I brought you dinner. Not my story, but my nanny's, and this happened decades ago. I caught up with my nanny recently and I was reminded of this story. The dialogue is not accurate obviously, but hopefully you will get the gist of it. My siblings and I had a part-time nanny growing up since both our parents worked. Her job was to pick us up from school in the afternoon, drive us to after-school activities, bring us home and prepare dinner. We lived in a subdivision where my parents owned two pieces of property. One property where our house stood and an empty lot next door. The empty lot was not fenced in and it is essentially a bare piece of property. This subdivision is considered small, only 60 properties allowing everyone to know each other. My parents moved there in the first year of their marriage and were literally one of the first families that ever lived there. Nanny started working for us when my oldest brother came into the picture and stayed with us for over 25 years before she retired. Everyone in the subdivision knew her and loved her. Nanny loved to garden and my parents gave her carte blanche on the empty lot. She cared for that garden so much and we had a lot of fresh vegetables and fruit growing up. Nanny could take home as much produce as she wanted as well. One day Nanny started to notice that her harvest was decreasing and couldn't figure out why. There were bananas that she was sure was there a week ago that were now gone. The only harvest left were the ones that were already turning brown, etc. After finding out Nanny's concerns, my dad installed CCTV cameras along our perimeter fence that looked out to the empty lot where Nanny's garden stands. Sure enough, the CCTV catches a neighbor stealing Nanny's hard-earned harvest. It was a new neighbor, called Karen, who was treating our garden as her own personal produce section. Karen steals at the oddest hours too, when no one could see her. Think 5 AM or 11 PM. Well, that sit not well with Nanny. We give away produce to our neighbors. If they ask for some, Nanny will give them away. The key word, however, is that they ask and not steal. So, what does Nanny do? When Nanny was sure that Karen was the thief, she cooked an extra large serving of dinner one night and took some over to Karen's house. Her young son answered the door, possibly 8 to 10 years old, and Nanny asked for Karen. When Karen came to the door, Nanny in a loud voice said, "I brought you dinner, since I noticed that you've been helping yourself to our garden recently. I didn't want you or your children to go hungry." Karen was obviously red in the face and shut the door quickly. Without getting the food Nanny was offering, she missed out because Nanny was an amazing cook. Her son was right by the door, watching the exchange too. It didn't stop there though. Since Nanny knew a lot of people in the neighborhood and people loved her back, she connived with some other people to bring Karen dinner for the next 3 days. On the 4th day, Karen's husband dropped by the house and apologized for Karen's behavior and offered to compensate Nanny for whatever Karen stole. As far as I know, no one messed with Nanny ever again. Info number 1, this is in Southeast Asia. Info number 2, when this happened, the garden was at least 13 to 15 years old and thriving. We had more than plenty for me and my nanny's family. We would typically give away whatever bounty we had to friends, family, and including even the neighbors. Nanny was an urban farmer before urban farmers were a thing. Info number 3, we didn't fence in the empty lot because 1, we never saw the need to. It was a small development and typically couples would buy multiple lots, build on one and save the rest of the properties for their children when they get married and have families of their own. Even now, the area is only 75 to 80% developed. I reckon there were only 30 owners in total. Number 2, fencing the lot would classify the property as a home instead of just a lot under HOA rules. The annual HOA dues for a home is 2 times the HOA dues for a lot, which is not really worth it. So yeah guys, there you have it. Even in Southeast Asia, apparently HOAs are a thing. Although if I would take a wild guess, judging by this person's English skills, this happened probably either in Malaysia or in Singapore. But anyway, that's just a guess. And the next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for taking a 95-year-old neighbor's parking spot? I will try to describe this as best as I can. My girlfriend and I lived in our duplex with a 1-car garage and shared driveway for over 2 years now. And things have been great, all the neighbors get along with me until my new neighbors across the street just bought their mansion. 7 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms and a 3-car garage in October. I always back my truck in my driveway as it won't fit in the garage and my girlfriend parks her little car on the street. We use our garage as storage and park our golf cart in it. With the new neighbors it became difficult backing in or even pulling out. As they were moving in, they had all their vehicles parked on the street. Now, the city law states you are allowed to park your vehicle on the north side of the street. My girlfriend, she makes sure she isn't blocking anyone or getting into anyone's way. Just how the neighborhood is set up, it is kind of common sense. After a month of them living there, 3 of the cars are now parked in their giant driveway, but 1 car remained in the worst spot for me to pull in my driveway. It is a narrow street and trying to fit a full-size truck is difficult as it is. I have to make a 5-point turn to wedge into my driveway. One afternoon I saw this older man get in and leave. I decided, well, now that he moved his car, he will probably park in his driveway and I'll be good. As he got back home, he parked in the very same spot. The car stayed there for another week until I saw him leave again. I decided I will park in that area on the road just so he would park elsewhere, preferably his driveway. He ended up parking butt up against my truck, giving about an inch space from my truck. The next day I leave for work to come back home to see that he moved right back in the very same spot. Now I am kind of annoyed. It is a month later. I am hosting a Christmas party for my family. I have a large family, so I decided that my parents can park in my driveway and I will park on the street. It just so happened the old man got in his car and left the street, so I pulled right in and continued to get my place ready for the family party. Right before my family arriving, I ran out to the truck to grab some items inside it. I was approached by a middle-aged lady who introduced herself and claimed that I was in her father's spot. I was taken back a little from it and was speechless. I looked at her and she continued,
He is 95 years old and he needs this spot. It is quite a far walk when you park your big old truck here.
Mind you, my house is right across the street and sometimes I park on the street when my girlfriend takes the driveway, so this is not something new. So she goes on,
He has a disability and he needs to remain parking close to the house.
I couldn't say anything. I was still baffled that she had the balls to approach me and haggle me about parking on a street owned by the city. So when I had the chance to reply to her after telling me to move my truck now 5 or 6 times, I said, "What is wrong with your driveway?" Her instant reply was,
I don't have time for this. Please move your truck tonight or first thing in the morning.
Next morning I did have some errands to run. When I came back I saw he didn't move his car, so I took his spot again. I told my duplex neighbor, who also parks on the street, and his wife parks her SUV on our shared driveway. My duplex neighbor thinks that is pretty effed up. We said we should start parking there until the old man starts parking in the driveway. Now you're thinking, sweet old guy too, watching him come and go to his car. He is actually quite the dick to other drivers and neighbors trying to get home. He swings his door open, doesn't look or care about other drivers passing, which I've seen cars having to slam their brakes for him, and then hell continue to walk slowly to his backseat, swing that door open, get his 1 bag of groceries, and then slowly walk back to the driver's door, swing that open to lock the car, and then walk into the street passing the cars waiting to get by, to walk down his driveway and into the house. So, am I the a-hole? And yeah guys, I am curious if you have any opinions about this person. Do you think that OP is the a-hole or not? Let us know in the comments, and while you're at it, I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. A user in the comments said, "Not the a-hole, granted you should have responded to this woman before she repeated herself for the 5th time in a row, but if she has time for that, then she can explain what is wrong with the driveway. If she gave a reason, then yeah, I would say you're the a-hole, but she didn't. So all is fair in walking and parking." And another user in the comments said, "You are the a-hole because you didn't even try talking to your neighbors about this. It was quite possible you might have been able to resolve this with a polite chat. However, you dealt with it in a pretty passive-aggressive way." And the next one is titled, "Am I the a-hole for asking my neighbors to keep the volume down when they have family and friends over?" I know that this already seems like a fairly straightforward question, but I feel there are a few things that could skew the situation in either direction. For context, I'm a senior college student swimming in the midst of finals right now. I have admittedly been having a tough time with the amount of coursework I've been keeping up with. I have 3 studios, 2 other classes and an incomplete from last semester that I've been working on concurrently. I think that situational stress, anxiety and depression, I see a therapist so please don't think I'm trying to pull those diagnoses out of my ass, are clouding my judgment, so I wanted to ask a wider audience about the situation. I live in an apartment complex, and several months ago the neighbors directly adjacent to us moved out after rent got hiked up. A new neighbor of course moved in, but I honestly cannot stand her and the family she has over constantly. It seems that her and all of her adult friends and family smoke, so there is constantly somebody hacking up a lung immediately outside of my door, which I tolerate since that's something technically out of their control. However, another consequence of them all being smokers is that they are all constantly gathering in front of our doors. Their door is situated very close to mine and having conversations that are typically so loud that I can clearly hear them through my door. They have also started bringing over young children who constantly yell and have tantrums. The noise happens most often from around 6 PM to 11/12 PM, give or take a few hours. There have been 3 separate occasions where I have asked this woman's guests to quiet down. I think that it's the fact that the people who are causing the noise don't actually live there that irritates me. The latest occurrence was yesterday morning at 9:30 AM when I was studying and having breakfast before classes. I was drinking coffee when somebody started pounding on their door, which of course sounds like pounding on my door. The knocking was so loud and violent that it sounded like police having a drug bust. I opened my door and a high school age girl was standing at their door, presumably a friend of the neighbor's daughter. I opened the door and told her to stop and closed it again to continue my breakfast. That night, when I came back from my classes, the neighbor posted a note on her door with a fat red warning sign on the top. I unfortunately don't have a picture, but the basic gist of the sign is that she is old and sick. She is maybe in her mid-40s to mid-50s, but since she smokes it is hard to tell, and that she has family over a lot because of that. She also wrote that curfew is at 10 PM, which makes me think she believes her and her family have the right to be as loud as they want until then. She ended the note saying that anybody who had an issue should go to management, which I am tempted to do. The note irritates me because I had the courtesy of talking to her directly in person about the issue, and she retorted with a passive-aggressive note that was pretty obviously directed towards me, since I believe I'm the only one who has confronted her about the noise. I know that noise from neighbors is a part of living in an apartment situation, but I also believe that it is their responsibility to be respectful neighbors, which includes any family or friends that happen to be visiting as well. Noise from other people is a major stressor for me, and I have no way to escape from their noise as it carries as far as the bedroom at times. I didn't think I was being particularly rude when asking her and her family friends to quiet down, except in the last incident I was definitely cranky. But her note on the door makes me feel like I may be wrong. And a user in the comments said, that is pretty unacceptable behavior on their part, living in an apartment setting. Everyone sucks here, your neighbor is a bell end, but unless you have noise rules for your apartment that say otherwise, 8 to 21 o'clock seems fair game to live. If they had contractors in working on the place drilling and the like, would you complain in that period? And if you would, how could you ever expect to get work done yourself? However, for all the slamming and banging outside that, then your neighbor and her guests are scum. If they were settling a small child and you were making that amount of noise, then they would be pissed. Therefore, your annoyance is justified. Use the rules of your building to your advantage and inform your building management company. If they take no action, take to your local authority regarding noise bylaws in your area and what they cover. And Ripe Stars, I would love to hear from you. Do you think that OP is the a-hole, or maybe that simply everyone sucks here? Let us know what you think in the comments. And the next one is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I got my annoying neighbors evicted because of their dog that barks 24/7 constantly? So, I have lived in my apartment for 9 months now. It is absolutely perfect except for one thing. My neighbor's barking dog. My neighbor lives in the building next to me, but our buildings are connected and we share a wall on our kitchens, dining rooms, although I use mine as an office, bathrooms and bedrooms. Their dog barks non-stop in the kitchen and dining room when they are not home, and as a consequence I have a hard time focusing on my homework when I get home from class. If I make the slightest noise in my kitchen, the dog goes off for hours after, so I feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own home because of their dog. I left a note for them for the first time a few months after I moved in. It was after 10 PM and the dog just would not stop barking, which I felt was ridiculous. The note was not aggressive, I even suggested the dog might just be bored. I said I know it is hard to know what your dog does when you're not home, so I cut them some slack. But I did remind them about the quiet enjoyment provision in our leases, and I am an MD, so this means landlords have the duty to control their tenants' noise. After about a month, nothing had changed, so I put in a complaint with the landlord and the barking stopped for a week. Then it started back up again. I put up with this for a few more months and I put in another complaint with the landlord because it was obvious that they were not taking any steps to solve the issue. Everyone got a letter from the landlord that said the next time they get a complaint about the dog, the person whose dog it is gets a 30-day notice to evict. I found this odd since I told them specifically what apartment it was coming from, so I don't know why every apartment got a letter. The dog, however, never stopped. I don't want to get these people evicted because of their dog, so I left another note for them. Non-threatening, basically the same as the first note. But I again told them that I'm going to have to complain to the landlord if it doesn't stop. The dog stopped for about a week again, but now it is back to the usual. I have put up with this for so long, I don't know what else to do. I don't want to get them evicted, but they clearly don't care about the noise their dog makes. So, would I be the a-hole if I put in another complaint with my landlord, possibly resulting in their eviction? And a user in the comments said, not the a-hole, you have given them numerous chances to correct their dog's barking, they just don't care. You've been fairly reasonable and they are continuing to break their lease by having a noise nuisance. You are not getting them evicted, they are getting themselves evicted for repeatedly ignoring the request from the landlord to correct the issue. And another user said, not the a-hole, they know it is a problem and have been given multiple chances to fix it. They simply don't care. At this point, they have no one to blame but themselves if another complaint leads to eviction. It is a basic courtesy thing. Update to the story posted by OP, I showed the landlord an audio recording of the constant barking and let's just say he was not happy. 2 months after my original post, the neighbors are now gone. I kind of feel bad for them. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious what you think about this story. Do you think that OP is the a-hole in essentially getting the neighbors evicted because of their noise levels, or do you think that it was justified? Let us know what you think in the comments. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. However, this is not the end of ripe content for you. I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will hopefully soon show up on the left corner of the screen, which will provide you with hundreds if not thousands of hours of ripe content. If you still haven't gotten enough, then please also check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos that you will only find on there. Furthermore, if you want to share your own story with our community, then please head on over to r/ripestories on Reddit, where you can share your own stories and there is a good chance that I might read it in a video. Thank you so much for your daily support and I hope to see you again tomorrow.